Hey guys, how are you? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing a review of a horror film from Spain. Although it's from Spain, it's spoken in the English language, released in the year 2004, directed by Paco Plaza, and this film is called Romasanta. And the story to Romasanta is as follows. It's the year 1850. Wolves plague the forests. More and more people are disappearing. The mutilated bodies present precise surgical cuts along with savage gashes. The local villagers are terrified, too frightened to enter the forest. The legend of the werewolf of Alaraz expands throughout the land. So it's set in the 1850s in Spain. There is an outbreak of these murders that it appears to be the work of wolves. So as more and more people are getting picked off, the village people are absolutely terrified. They're staying indoors. And this is where there's an investigation that leads into the deaths of these people. There's autopsies, and they discover that there is a lot more to the truth than they first thought, and it could be a lot more complicated than just simple wolf attacks. So that's all I'm going to give you on the synopsis. If you want to know more, please go out there and see this film for yourself. Now my thoughts on Romasanta. Paco Plaza, for those of you who don't know, helped Juan Balaguero in Rec 2. And then he broke free and he made Rec 3. So Rec 3, I didn't think it was that bad, but a lot of people hated it because it was a lot different from the first two Rec films. But it was different. And that's something that Paco Plaza is not afraid to do, make something different. Now, I think he's a very good director. I think, Rec 3 has been unfairly criticised because it's been compared to the first two, but it's something different. And that's exactly what you get with Romasanta. Now, it's billed up as a werewolf film. In fact, the full title is Romasanta, the Werewolf Hunt. So a lot of people are going to get the film expecting it to be a traditional werewolf film. You've got these people hunting these werewolves. But it's not like that. It's completely different. So I can understand why a lot of people would hate this film. So you go on to IMDb, and you'll find the criticisms of it being too slow, and that it's certainly not what they were expecting. So if you go in there expecting a traditional horror film, you're going to be disappointed. But if you go in there expecting a very atmospheric, very gothic, macabre tale, then you're going to be pretty impressed, because I actually thought this one was fairly decent, and I liked it. And I know a lot of people out there are going to disagree, so it's definitely a case of try at your own risk, because it's certainly going to have a divided opinion. Some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. I don't quite love it, but then again, I didn't hate it. I actually got I got a lot of value out of this one, and I'm pretty happy that I picked it up. Now, to start off with the cinematography, as I said, it's a very gothic feeling. It's a very dreaded feeling, and Paco Plaza uses some absolutely beautiful visuals to really get you into the environment that they're set in. They're living in terror. You can feel that terror. It's translating through the screen very, very nicely. It's very similar to the works of Perfume Story of a Murderer, and then, the other gothic sort of tales set in that sort of era where it's very dreaded and it feels like it's a very claustrophobic sort of feel. So if you like the way that Perfume Story of a Murderer looked, very grimy but at the same time beautiful and very dark, macabre sort of feeling, then Romasanta reminded me of that one. Also another film called Brotherhood of the Wolf, which was a French film that I haven't reviewed yet, so I'm not going to talk about that one too much, but it's the same atmosphere where it's very dreaded. It's a level of mystery in it. There's a level of drama, romance, and also the horror element. I thought the horror element in the film worked pretty well. There is some genuinely shocking scenes, not so much graphic death, but the aftermath. And there's one involving a young girl and a bird. That was really shocking. So it's definitely a movie for adults only, because there are some images in this film that are really going to upset younger viewers, but it's nothing too extreme. So if you're a seasoned veteran as far as extreme cinema is concerned, you're not going to really have too much trouble stomaching the shocking scenes, but it really sets a very macabre world, and I actually really like the way it felt. The acting was fairly decent. Julian Sands, I'd never really heard of that guy, but a lot of people criticise him. I thought he played a very good character, very mysterious character, and slightly psychotic. And then the other supporting cast were fairly decent as well. But the only problem I had with the acting was the fact that it was chosen in the English language. Now, the problem with that, it's set in Spain. And then you've got some actors who, especially the actress, Elsa Pataki, who is Spanish herself, but she's speaking with a Spanish accent in English. And then the problem with that is that not all the actors are Spanish, so you've got some with English accents, and it doesn't mix in very well. I kept thinking that I was in England, and then when the actress comes into it, I was thinking I was in Spain. So the fact that it was spoken in English with different sort of accents, it really doesn't know where it wants to be set. So you don't get the feeling that you're in Spain. You get the feeling that you're somewhere, somewhere in the UK. But then it switches back to feeling like it's in Spain. So the setting really wasn't helped by the fact that the difference in accents was there and somewhat, a little bit confusing. So I hate it. I always hate it when you've got these foreign films that are speaking it in English because it takes it out a little bit. It doesn't feel as natural as it probably should have been. So I would actually say that this movie would have been better if it was spoken in its native language of Spanish and it had Spanish actors. But having said that, the actors do a decent job and they contribute to the very dreaded feeling that the film has. Now, my only problem with the movie was the fact that it does get stuck a lot. It's a fairly boring film, but there is enough there to keep you watching. You want to know more. You want to know the end of the mystery. But the problem is the pacing is very slow, so I'm not going to say that this is really an entertaining film. It's a different kind of horror film, but I wouldn't say you come out of it enjoying it. You experience, the very dark tones, you experience some shocking scenes, but it does get bogged down a lot, which was the unfortunate aspect of it, because if it was shortened a little bit, I thought it would have been a hell of a lot better, because there is some dialogue there that it doesn't really capture you. It doesn't really suck you in, and you're not losing yourself into the film. And by the end of it, you're kind of looking at your watch. Although it's not, terribly boring, there are elements to it where you think to yourself, well, I'm not quite getting enthralled into the film as much as the director's probably hoping, because the pacing is just a little bit off. The characters, while they're interesting, some of the dialogue also just it feels a bit off, and I think it was because it was delivered in a very unnatural way as far as the Spanish actors speaking English, and then you've got the English actors speaking English. So that kind of contrast in differences as far as the actors giving out their lines, I thought it prevents you from being completely sucked into the film. So that's why you kind of notice that it is dragging a little bit. So the horror set pieces are very well done. It is a very macabre tale. If you're a fan of werewolf films, I would say definitely check this one out, but it is different. I'm not going to give away any more about the story because I really don't want to ruin anything, but it is a different kind of film. So for that, I can applaud Paco Plaza, but I just thought that because the movie is a little bit too long, it does get bogged down a bit. And then you've got the other minor criticisms as far as the accents, the fact it was spoken in English. That kind of drags it down a little bit as well because it just takes you out of it. You don't get sucked into the film as much as you probably should have as far as enjoying the film is concerned. So it's a difficult one to really review. It's a difficult one to really recommend. So I would say try before you buy. Definitely rent this one before buying it, unless you can get it for a very cheap price. But I was happy I bought it because it was something different, and that's something I'm always looking for. So if you enjoy films like Brotherhood of the Wolf and the similar feeling of Perfume Story of a Murderer, if you enjoy those kind of gothic tales, then I would say check out Romasanta, but just be very careful. So overall, for Romasanta, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. Certainly not as bad as I was expecting. So 3.5 for Romasanta. I would say recommend it, but it comes with caution. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.